Salvete omnes, and welcome back to another video here on ScholaLatinae. Today, we're going to be looking at some of the modern influence of Latin. You see, I have this big PMAQ right in the middle of your screen. And so we're going to really look at four key ways that Latin has kind of come to influence not only the way we speak and what we're saying, but also kind of how we're thinking as a modern society. And so this PMAQ that I'm talking about, the four different parts of each of these letters. The first are phrases, Latin phrases that we now use in English. The second are mottos, which you will see different institutions using. The third are abbreviations, which are like phrases but just separated by letter. And the last are quotations, which aren't as common but still often are a little bit more valuable, I'd say, and a little bit deeper. And of course, I should say that these four kind of categories are not super exclusive at all. In fact, there are a lot of instances where uh, quotations just become phrases which sometimes get abbreviated or turned into a motto or something like that, where you can understand that the boundary between what is a phrase and what is a motto and what is an abbreviation, what is a quotation, it really it goes away. But first, we're going to look at phrases, and they show up in a couple of key locations, but really all over the place. The first one is in law. So you know probably the most famous legal Latin phrase, habeas corpus, which literally means "may you have the body." Again, I'm not a lawyer. This is not a legal advice video, but I believe it is in reference to when you're being detained, that your defense wants the court to have the body and have you be on trial. Um, Again, I do not have a law degree, but the next one is bona fide in Latin, or a lot of people say bona fide or bona fide, and that just means in good faith. So, for example, if your lawyer is if you're a bona fide lawyer, you know you're not trying to swindle your clients. You're acting with their best intentions at heart. And finally, there's onus probandi, which is the burden of proof, and here we have a courtroom as well. The onus probandi is the burden of proof is whoever is making certain accusations in court. It is on them to actually back that up with something substantial. Um, Another key area that you'll see phrases a lot is in medicine or other doctoral instances. So, for example, rigor mortis is literally the stiffness of death. If you've ever died, you will know that you tend to like kind of clench up. Um, and another one is post mortem, which again, unfortunate byproduct of working in medicine is that there's a lot of mores, a lot of death that shows up. Post mortem means after death. You know, if they're doing a post-mortem analysis of a body, like an autopsy kind of thing. But something a little bit less death-related, there's placebo and nocebo, which in Latin is placebo, nocebo. And those literally mean I shall please, I shall harm. Here's a surgeon working, by the way. But that is, you know, if you've heard of the placebo effect, that's where they give you a sugar pill and they say, this will make your arm stop hurting. And the sugar pill then is then saying to your immune system, I shall please, and you feel that you're no longer in pain. And then there's some other common phrases that you've probably heard of. Caveat emptor, if you ever go to a store and they might have this up, it just means let the buyer beware. It's good advice as well. Always be wary of what you're buying. Um, Sine qua non is a good one. Literally means without which not. It is something that is indispensable. So, for example, you could say that studying the classics is a sine qua non of being a well-learned individual in today's world. And finally, terra incognita, it means unknown land. And here we have the money from the caveat emptor. And so, you know, on a lot of old maps, you'll see, oh, terra incognita. It's kind of the olden day of like, here be dragons. Or as a kind of just like a more metaphorical sense of if you're going to a new stage in life, you might say it is, you're going to some terra incognita. And again, there are like the Wikipedia page for the list of Latin phrases is absolutely huge. This is just I'm just choosing a few to show you the range of different phrases we can see. And so let's look at some mottos, which again, all these are, if you want to get technical, also phrases, but they are attached to specific organizations, institutions. And first, we're going to look at college mottos. A lot of colleges like to have mottos. So, for example, we have Lux et Veritas. That means light and truth, and it's from Yale University, off in New Haven, Connecticut. There's also Just Veritas is Harvard, a little bit east off nearby Boston. And then Dominus Illuminatio Mea means the Lord is my light. That's the University of Oxford off in Oxford, England. And a lot of universities, not only in the United States, but abroad, will have these sorts of mottos. And that's actually Yale's campus right there. Another very common place for mottos to appear are in states. I just saw in the New York Times Mini, spoilers for within this last week, there's something saying that 25 of the U.S. states have Latin mottos, which is pretty nice. One of those is Ad Astra per Aspera, which means to the stars through difficulties, and that's Kansas. Kansas has given it its all. It's quite motivational, and not only is there do states have Latin mottos, but we have the full spectrum of classical influence. Eureka, I don't speak Greek. Eureka means I found it, and you can find California on the map, who has that motto, the only state motto in Greek, might I add. And some other mottos I mentioned in my introduction to the Latin language, to the Latin and Greek languages, that I'm from Chicago, and our motto is Urbs in Horto. If you ever visit Chicago, you'll notice we have a wide, extensive network of park districts and forest preserves, and you can't go more than 20 feet without walking into a tree. Another one, for any of you sports fans, is Superbia in Proelio, and that is Pride in Battle. And that is, if you're a Man City fan, I admit I don't watch football, so I don't know who that is, but Latin mottos are appear in all sorts of places. And we have some abbreviations to look at, and abbreviations and phrases are probably the two most closely related. So I'm actually going to look at it through the same lenses that we did phrases. So first, some legal abbreviations. If you're a lawyer, you need to go to law school, and the degree you get is called a JD. It means it's Juris Doctor, literally doctor of law. And so, if you hear of people who have a PhD, that's a Philosophiae Doctor, doctor of philosophy, or an MD, Medicae Doctor, doctor of medicine. And then, if you think of famous cases like Roe v. Wade, Brown v. Board of Education. Yes, I did take AP Gov in school. The V stands for versus, which is a Latin word that means against. These two parties who are duking it out in court. And then if you talk about a suspect's MO, that's their modus operandi, literally method of operation. Once again, we have the same courtroom here. And that's kind of, if you're trying to establish a series of events that could all be done by the same person. You look at what's their MO? Do they always do XYZ? In medicine, you see these on prescription bottles a lot. If or maybe after you go to a hospital visit, they'll say, "Oh, NPO, nil per os, or nihil per os," means nothing by mouth. They don't want you to eat anything. Or maybe if you're about to go into procedure, they'll say, "Oh, NPO for 6 hours before our procedure," or something. No, I just had my wisdom teeth out. I couldn't eat or drink anything that morning. There's also BID, which is bis in dia, and there's also like TID, QID for ter in dia, quater in dia, and that means twice in a day or twice a day. Equivalently thrice a day, 4 times a day. And that's if you have certain medicine that you need to take on a regular schedule, it abbreviates the frequency. And then for any of the glasses or contacts wearers, myself included, I'm wearing contacts right now, we have, next time you go to the eye doctor, check your prescription afterwards, because you might see OS and OD on there. That stands for oculus sinister or oculus dexter, and that literally means left eye or right eye. I notice also a little fun thing that sinister means left and has kind of adapted into its modern meaning of evil, right? And so some other abbreviations you might come across, RIP. You see these on tombstones often. A lot of people think it originally means rest in peace. It actually was originally a Latin phrase, requiescat in pace, may they rest in peace. And it's just adapted to English. It just so happens that the letters line up well. We also have e.g., exempli gratia, for the sake of an example. Imagine we have a closing quotation mark there. And e.g. and i.e. get mixed up a lot in English. I.e. stands for it est, means that is. E.g. is when you are trying to give an example of an aforementioned thing. So for example, I might say, you should watch a ScholaLatinae video, e.g. the modern influence of Latin. However, if it est, i.e. is used to really like clarify something. So if you're saying, I am watching a video by the senior instructor of language, i.e. Joji, right? And so that clarifies that is in fact me. And finally, NB means nota bene, just means note well. Here's our tombstone from the RIP up there. And so your teacher might say this, or your professor might say this in school. Take note of this, right? Something important. And the final fourth of PMAQ that we're going to look at are quotations. And you've probably heard a couple of these. The first one, I'm sure you've heard these first two words, carpe diem. You might not have heard the rest of the phrase, quam minimum credula postero. And that means seize the day, trusting as little as possible in the future. Often you just hear seize the day, carpe diem. And this is in fact from Horace's Odes. Horace provides us with a lot of really great quotations. And another quotation we have, if you are part of the National Junior Classical League, NJCL, and you were at the 2023 convention, this was the theme of that convention, caelum non animum mutant qui trans mare currunt. This is also from Horace, from his epistles, and it's really a thought about how if you travel far and abroad, or you're trying to travel, it doesn't change who you are. It might change where you are, right? So if you're moving somewhere, if you're going off to college, but you still stay really who you are at heart. And finally, just a little thing, errare humanum est, to err is human. This is probably Seneca the Younger who said this. It's been attributed to a couple of different places. Here's that C that you might be rushing across. And that's really to remind people, like, it's okay to make mistakes. Things happen. And so a lot of these quotations, right, have a lot of philosophical messages attached to them. They are also quite a bit longer than some of the phrases and mottos and abbreviations that we've looked at. But as you go forth as Latin scholars, I want you to think about maybe some Latin phrases that you can sprinkle into your daily lexicon, and maybe think of some quotations that might pique your interest, and put it in your bio on Instagram or something, and really consider all the ways that Latin has impacted how we perceive the world, how we think about the world, how we talk about the world going forward. And with that, we have come to the end of another video here on ScholaLatinae. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you have learned some new things about phrases, mottos, abbreviations, quotations, and their influence on our modern world. And with that, I'm going to say valete omnes. Take care.